much. Right back at you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you, Reverend Rochelle, for just a wonderful time of meditation and just sort of clearing the path. And, you know, she's so inspirational. And for those of you who were able to hear Reverend Rochelle last month, oh my goodness, what a powerful teaching she gave us on the gospel according to you. And if you missed that, or if you want to hear it again, you can just put it in the chat. Yeah, I want to hear that teaching again, because we do have the recording. We can send it out. Remember when you get it to download it so you can have it and just go back and listen. As with all of the teachings, but so powerful. So I'm feeling inspired by the meditation this morning, talking about what we are capable of, inspired by all of your voices sharing in the space today, inspired by the fact that you showed up on behalf of your life. And I love that. Inspired by the fact that we are in this together as a community. And so many things are inspiring me right now, but most of all, the love that I'm feeling, the love that I'm receiving from you, and the love that I am absolutely giving out to you. So just welcome again to the space, each and every one of you. So yes, I want to share today on the life study entitled Yes, but not enough, a call for grace. Yes, but not enough. Subtitle, a call for grace. And I'll ask you right before I begin, because we are recording, and I believe we're live on Facebook as well. So I want you to make sure you check your phones, make sure they're muted so we can have a clear recording for today's life study entitled Yes, but Not Enough, subtitle, A Call for Grace. A call for grace. By now, you realize that change is an inevitable part of life. Now, change itself, and this is something I've learned, and most of us are mature individuals in age specifically. You know, we're adults. We're at least 21. Some of us in our 30s, our 40s, 50s, even some of us in our 60s and beyond. So we are mature individuals. So I'm thinking this is not just something I've learned, but something you've learned as well, that change is inevitable. It's an inevitable part of life, but change itself isn't hard. Rather, acknowledging and accepting the change that has already occurred in your life is. Let me say that again, that change itself isn't hard, but acknowledging and accepting the change that has already occurred in your life is. Listen, I have found that change can be an effective tool to take you to the next level of joy, of productivity, of creativity and success. But change can also stun you into inaction, into a destructive reaction, or injure the core of your belief in your world and in yourself. I'm sure I have some heads nodding because that's true. So the difference is not in the kinds of changes that happen to you, but in the ways you perceive these changes and respond to them. Remember, we're talking today, yes, but not enough, a call for grace. So there are many ways of adapting to change. Some of these are nourishing, right? But then some of them are injurious. Many people adapted as children, by removing themselves from life. So that way they're not affected by the world and relationships around them, because they remove themselves from responding to those changes. Of course, we see that these same people are sometimes very lonely, isolated, and often ineffective in many areas of their lives. Now, no matter how mature we are, emotionally, spiritually, you may be looked at as a spiritual guru. I know sometimes, because of the fact that I am a pastor, because I've been doing this for so long and I've gone through my own transitions, it may seem like I respond to change differently than others. But we all have our ways in which we respond to change. And I have found that we all resist life changes in our own way. No matter how authentic your life is, you will at times resist change. Now, some people respond to change with denial, others with fear, right? Or rage. Others are stunned into inaction or frenetic, ineffective action. So people respond in a myriad of ways, right? In their resistance to change. So there are different behaviors and different feelings that come up. So when you think of people who, when change occur, they may get depressed because they're feeling this sense of hopelessness. Sometimes people get, they respond with anxiety because they're overwhelmed by what's going on. And of course, I talk, people about rage or anger, because a lot of times when people respond with rage, and I'm not talking about righteous anger or righteous indignation, I'm talking about the rage that sort of overtakes you and leave you paralyzed to do anything else because you're so enraged. That's from a feeling of powerlessness. And those who respond in denial, like that child who cut off themselves from what's going on, is because of that. In those moments, you feel like you don't have the capacity, right? You lack the capacity to deal with what's coming at you, the intrusion that you're facing. So you box off your pain. So when we're experiencing those, and if there's ever a moment where we're experiencing change in our lifetimes, it's this moment that's coming at us with so many uncertainties every day. There are changes every single day, and I'm not talking about minor changes. In this season, there's such catastrophic changes that are taking place. The pandemic itself is such a catastrophic change. And so people are dealing with this, and you're hearing the uptick that's taking place, and people feeling depressed, dealing with anxiety, feeling that sense of loneliness and isolation. And so you have all of this taking place. And like I said, even for us who are living quote unquote authentic lives and are spiritually and emotionally mature individuals, we still have to deal with the changes that come our way. And even in those moments, there are times, depending on where we are, there are times based on what we're facing, we can say, yes, I am mature. And yes, I am spiritually equipped, because I've placed myself in spaces for me to handle my life. We can say yes, but not enough. And it's hard for people, especially those who are in this kind of self recognition and self-transformation and learning more and more about who we are and growing and expanding. It's hard for us many times to admit that yes, all of that, but not enough. Not enough in this moment. Not enough in this moment. And I found that actually those who are the most spiritually mature, those who seem to have their lives together, are sometimes the most resistant to say this, to admit this, because in some way it's a demonstration of weakness, but actually it's not. It's an acknowledgement of the truth of where we are in that moment. Yes, I've got all of this, but in the midst of what I'm dealing with, not enough. And to actually admit that and not see it as a sign of weakness, but actually as a call for grace. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. But I wanted to tell you expand our discussion a little bit more as we're talking about change. There are two basic types of change. There's evolution and revolution. So jot that down because that's important. There are two types of change. There's evolution and there's revolution. So evolution consists of small incremental changes, yet the result can be a complete metamorphosis. Evolution eventually makes itself obsolete, and the evolved being no longer resembles what it was in its original form, because it no longer fits into the old environment. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about, because you're like, oh, Pastor, that's a lot. See, think about a baby. Think about a baby in the womb, right? The baby grows. There's these incremental changes that are taking place, and the baby begins to change its form. So it's no longer it's no longer that fetus. It's no longer just that seed that became and was what it was in its original form. That baby now is changing, and so there's incremental changes. So that's why a woman, they have these visits. They go to the doctor at certain points during their pregnancy, and the doctor says, oh, you're at this stage, or the baby is at this stage now, and this is what's happening to the baby, and this is what's formed in the baby, right? So the baby, in the process of those changes, they're losing their original structure and they're becoming something else. So that baby in the womb would grow too large, right, for its maternal home. If it decides to stay in there, it would die were it to remain in its mother's womb. So it has to come out. It has to come into a new world, right, and begin to deal with the new challenges of the new world. And so this happens in our lives because we go through what I call evolutionary changes. There are these incremental changes, and that's why it's so important for us to pay attention to our lives, because they're bringing about in us a metamorphosis, changes within our own being, and we need to be aware of that. And sometimes when we're not paying attention to these evolutionary changes, when we face certain things, we ask ourselves, why am I responding this way? Why am I dealing with things this way? Why is this affecting me this way? Because we weren't paying attention to those changes. So there's that evolutionary change. See, and so we want to think about it in this way, that evolution speaks to those daily accumulation of changes, even in the most well-ordered life. You're going to be experiencing those changes that come with just evolving. And who you were previously through these incremental changes is not the person, right, you were before. So you're now in a new environment, dealing with new situations that you've got to handle. And so you've got to be aware of these evolutionary changes that are taking place. Okay, so I hope you got that one. The next change we want to talk about is revolution. So by contrast, right, this is sudden. It's sudden, shocking, and challenging. It what I call abrupt upheaval happens in your life. And we talked about this pandemic, right? So this pandemic can actually fit into what I call revolutionary change. It can be thrust upon you, or you can be its catalyst. Revolution asks us to confront what we are not prepared to address. So if in our change through evolution and these incremental changes, sometimes we feel, oh, we're more prepared to address our situations because we've been slowly kind of experiencing these changes. The contrast with revolutionary change is that it comes so abruptly, this abrupt upheaval, that we're like taken aback and we're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? And so we are required to dig deep and far beyond, right, into ourselves in order just to survive those moments. And we can make new demands on our friends. We maybe make new demands on our community, our family, because we have to respond suddenly and quickly to those new and unfamiliar challenges. So whether it's through evolution or through revolution, those moments in our lives may leave us feeling that we are powerful, yes, but not enough. And it's interesting to me that even as spiritually mature individuals that we may want to be, we're very passive in acknowledging changes that are taking place. We're very passive in acknowledging how an experience that we have, whether it's on the job or with a friend or in a relationship, that it may not have been an upheaval that happened, but something that sort of touches us and leaves a little bit of an impact on us. And because we're not consciously in tune with what's happening, or we brush things off, depending on our personality, depending on how we handle stuff, we may not realize that we are actually experiencing evolutionary change. And so we may think we're in one place, but when a situation comes up, we got to confront, we're like, oh, I thought I was here, but then I realized actually I'm not, because changes have been taking place in me through an evolutionary process, but I wasn't paying attention. And I didn't realize, oh my God, I'm actually out of the womb. I'm facing these new challenges, and I'm not being supplied, safe and cuddled in my mother's womb anymore, where everything is provided for me. No, I'm actually out here now, and I'm feeling stressed, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm feeling a sense of powerlessness in this moment. And I didn't think I was there. I thought I was somewhere else. And so sometimes people think it's the revolutionary change that is the most traumatic, but actually they can both leave you in spaces and places where you're not able to handle the moment that shows up. So it's very important for us to be paying attention to our lives and how the experiences that we're having incrementally are affecting us, because it's easy for us to see the revolutionary changes. It's easy for us to see when revolution shows up and there's a complete upheaval and there's unexpected loss, the death of a loved one, you lose your job, or, those big sort of life event things that happen that we weren't planning on, that we did not expect at that time. It happens. And so we've got to be, and so we have to be aware. It's like, it's right there. But the evolutionary changes are the ones that becomes more deceptive because we're not paying attention. But either way, whether if it's through an evolutionary process or through a revolutionary process, you're in a moment where you're saying, yes, I'm strong, but not enough. Yes, I know a lot, but in this moment, not enough. I can think back in my own life, and you can too, where you've had those moments. You know, after pastoring for in an assistant position for so many years, and counseling people and leading people, and you know, speaking all over the country, and all that stuff was going on. And yes, it looked like, you know, man, everything seemed to be together. And when I met that upheaval in my life, and I became the catalyst for that revolution. However, it did not change the fact that that situation, whether it's thrust upon me or I was the catalyst for it, it's still there. It still has to be dealt with. The loss of friends, the loss of money, the loss of position, the loss of the entire life that you built for yourself, no longer there. Whether it happened without my engaging it directly, it was thrust upon me, or whether I was the catalyst, it didn't change the reality of what had to be dealt with. And the pain of that loss, the pain of that disappointment, the releasing of being, feeling like a victim to circumstances. So all those things, you know, I had to deal with. And I remember there were moments where, even though I made that decision, even though I was that catalyst, when I was like, yes, you know, I'm feeling good that I've done this, but God, yes, but not enough. In this moment, I just don't have the capacity. In this moment, I just don't have what it takes. I mean, I think I can get there, but I'm not sure. So there's this uncertainty, there's doubt. All these things are happening. And that is when, dear people of faith, where we get to make our call for grace. It's okay, no matter where you are in your maturation, no matter where you are in your spiritual walk, it's okay when those moments hit where you say, yes, but not enough. Yes, I'm this. Yes, I have this. Yes, I've been doing this, but in this moment, it's not enough. It's okay in this moment because it's a blessed moment. It's a divine moment. It's your moment to call for grace. It's a moment to call for grace. And what do I mean by grace? You know, there's a passage in the New Testament where Paul is dealing with, you know, being overwhelmed by what he felt was his purpose in life. He was feeling overwhelmed by it. And he just wanted God to kind of come and just blanket him and make everything right, you know, and change the situations around him. And the word that came back, as it is written within the biblical text, is God saying, my grace is sufficient for you. My grace is sufficient for you. And that's what I want to encourage you in. When you face these moments, these changes in your life, when you come face to face with that, whether it's through evolutionary process or through revolution, I want you to remember that sufficient grace is available to you, and you've got to make a call for grace. When you come to that point, yes, but not enough, you got to make a call for grace. What do I mean by grace? Grace, I want to let you know, because we are people of faith, is what I'm calling divine influence. Now, I want you to understand that I'm not talking about a God sitting on a throne that's going to come down and mend everything that's happening in your life. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about divine influence that can be brought to bear onto your heart and your mind in that moment. In that moment, you get to call out. I don't know about you, but there have been in those times I was just referencing, and even more recent times where I've had to call out, where I've had to literally call out, where I have to say to myself, I need grace. In this moment, I need divine influence. And grace is not a theoretical idea, people. Grace is not just something that sounds nice. Grace must be experienced. And so when I say I make a call for grace, I make a call for divine influence to rise up in me and to show up in that moment, it means that I have laid bare my capacity in my humanity, and now I'm allowing the divinity that I am to have influence on this moment. And I don't want to just say it. I literally want to experience it. And that's what these changes, be they ever through evolution or revolution, allows you to have. It allows you to have that experience. Grace is an experiential moment where you get to experience something about the divine that you've never experienced in your life before. And when that happens, you expand. That moment of experiencing grace, divine influence, allows you to tap into and connect with something beyond yourself. And that's why I'm saying to you that it's very difficult, especially for those of us who are spiritually mature, because we get into a rhythm with our spirituality. You know, we have our rituals, whether it's, you know, our morning meditation, or how we, the rituals or the traditions in which we expand our spirituality or connect to God. But I want you to see these moments, this yes but not enough moment, as, let me put it this way, if we didn't have them, if we did not experience them, then we would leave dormant an aspect of the divine that we would never know. We would lay dormant within us an aspect of power, an aspect of creativity, an aspect of genius that we'd never known before. We would lay dormant an aspect of peace and comfort that we've never known before. And so what I want you to do is, I don't want you to end up, when you're facing those moments and experiencing those changes, I don't want you to retreat into anxiety. I don't want you to retreat into rage. I don't want you to retreat into depression. I don't want you to retreat into denial. I want you to scream out, oh yes, in this moment it's not enough. Whatever I have is not enough. So I'm calling for grace so I can break the barrier of spirituality that I've been living at for a while. See, this is the thing you've got to realize, especially, and I keep saying this, for people who are on that spiritual journey of awareness. You can get to a place, it's almost like you plateau. You can get to a place of comfort in your spirituality. And it takes these moments, it takes these yes, but not enough moments where you have to call for grace, where you got to call for divine influence in order for you to experience a new level and dimension of expansiveness. We may call it transcendency, but this is when it happens. And so I want to encourage you to understand that grace is I want to encourage you to understand that you can make a call for grace, that grace is available to you at all times. It's not a call of desperation. It's not a call. When you call for grace, it's not that, oh my God, I'm so desperate. It's not a call of desperation. It's a call of determination. It's a call where you decide that I'm going to break that spiritual plateau, that I'm going to enter into another level of spiritual life that I have yet to know, that I have not known, and it's available to me. So we don't retreat from these moments of changes. And that's why it's so important for you to understand that nothing has to be perfect in your life. You just got to know what's perfectly available for you, to you. And grace is available to you. It's what's in you. It's that divine influence that's in you. And in addition to that, as people of faith, there is that power that's beyond us that we can't even begin to comprehend. That infinite abundance that's available and accessible to us. And so when we make that call for grace, yes, use the word, I need you. I need you. It's not a sign of weakness. It's acknowledging that you're ready to go to the next level of your spiritual expansion. That's what you're saying. And so I can take on this moment. Grace provides you the capacity to be affected by events and yet grow from your experiences rather than being derailed by them. That's grace. Just tell yourself that's grace. So that way you adapt to change organically without the trauma. And it's like the disciples in the boat when the storm came. That's what they were experiencing in that moment. They were overwhelmed by it. It was this abrupt upheaval. It was a revolutionary moment for them. And they were affected. It was traumatic for them. They were affected by the trauma. But when you engage grace, when you make that call upon grace in us, beyond us, I need you in this moment. And listen, you don't move. You don't move from that space. You sit in that space until you experience it, until there's an experiential moment happening within you where you can literally feel that internal shift taking place in your heart and in your mind. So you get to adapt to change organically without the trauma. See, grace gives you the capacity to experience loss. It gives you the capacity to experience loss, whatever that loss may look like, because you can possess intuition and you can possess the process that enable you to create from the void. Do you all understand me? Because in that moment, when you're feeling like, I don't have the capacity for this, I can't handle this, grace allows you to create from the void. So no matter what you're experiencing, you can create from the void. Grace allows you to be open to the changes in your life without letting those changes determine who you are and who you've chosen to become. I believe in the meditation this morning, Reverend Rochelle was talking about what we're choosing to be, who we're choosing to be, who we're choosing to become. Grace allows you to be open to the changes. So you're not shutting down, you're not isolating, you're not feeling overwhelmed by it, but you're open to the changes in your life and you're not letting those changes determine who you are and whom you've chosen to become. In that moment, fear is diminished because grace allows you to live your dreams, realizing that any difficulties you encounter will lead to successful new beginnings. And that's what you should be experiencing. That's what you should be experiencing. These difficulties, whatever I'm experiencing, whatever I'm going through right now, whatever I'm encountering, it's going to lead me to successful new beginnings. Listen, grace says it's okay for you to be present in it and not consumed by it, because God is with you through it. That's grace. So in those moments of grace, you know what? I can be present in this. I can be present in what's going on in this moment right now. I don't have to retreat. Even in those moments where I'm saying it's not enough, it's okay, because those are the moments that you're going to tap into grace. You're going to make a call for grace, and that divine influence in us and beyond us, I don't know why I'm always looking up, but beyond us is going to allow us to be elevated, is going to allow us to break, if you would, those ceilings in our growth, those ceilings that we must, as a spiritually evolving, transcending being, that we must do. So grace says it's okay. It's okay for you to be present in it, because you won't be consumed by it, because the divine is with you through it. Can I say that again? It's okay for you to be present in it. Okay, you're making that call for grace right in the midst of it. I'm not running from it. I'm not turning away from it. I'm not allowing it to consume me. Sometimes words escape me in terms of just really, because I know that so many of us, I know so many of us have had those moments. We're like, oh my God, what is going on? How did this happen? Why did this happen? And we're experiencing those moments. I know so many of us have had moments where we thought that if a certain thing happened in our lives, that we'd be able to handle it. And we get to that moment and we realize, oh, okay, I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was. I didn't think that this is how I would show up in this moment in my life, because we didn't realize the incremental changes that was taking place inside of us. We weren't giving that attention. And so now we're in this space, and we're in it now. And this is when we make our call for grace. This is when we allow divine influence to take us over. I know, especially for us as real life, because we understand that there's not an external entity to worship. And at the same time, it doesn't take away from the fact that there is a power that is so immense, a power from which we are, that we are an expression of that power incarnate, whatever you name it, whatever you call it, God. We are enfleshed. We are here. We have actualized it. And so now that we're here and we're having that experience, we get to then, even in that moment, realize that this thing that is beyond us, this energy that is beyond us, we need to connect with that in a way that we have yet to connect. And so in any moment where you're feeling that yes, but not enough, it means that you haven't made that connection. Yes, I know we made lots of connection with that power, but there's another connection to be made. There's another connection to be made. You got to connect on another level. You got to connect on a level that you have yet to experience with the divine. And that just makes you more of the expression of that power materialized and actualized in the earth. So when other people are freaking out and frenzied, even though that's where you probably would have ended up, or find a way to cope, be it through denial or isolation or retreat or whatever those moments are, or to take gigantic steps back. No, you make a call for grace. In that moment, I need to be elevated beyond anything or any place that I've experienced. And I'm saying this especially again for those of us who are spiritually maturing individuals. If you don't pay attention, It's very easy for those changes to creep up on you. Listen, some of the habits and the rituals, some of the way you've been operating spiritually, guess what? They're outdated. They were for the womb. You're in a new place, dealing with new challenges. And so you've got to be aware of that. And so that's why it's so important to pay attention to those incremental evolutionary change, that you're changing all the time, that you're evolving. So what worked for you yesterday may not work for you. Let me not say may, will not work for you today. How you operated last year will not work for you this year. Y'all gotta get this. And sometimes, I mean, it could be drastic shifts that's required to deal with your present moment. And so you've got to understand that these incremental changes are taking place in your life, and you're going somewhere. You're moving forward. You're going somewhere. And so you need to literally be connecting with the divine in a way that allows you to be masterful in those moments. So yes, even when you come to those spaces where you say, yes, but not enough. In this moment, yes, I know what people say about me. I know how I've been living. I know my practice. I know my rituals. I got my crystals. I got all of that. Yes, all of that. And I realize in this moment, it's just not sufficient. But grace is. Divine influence is enough. Grace is enough. And grace is always available to us. That divine influence is always available to us. So I hope that you are able to boldly, in tears at times, call out for that grace, call out for that divine influence, so that you can break that ceiling and go to another level of spiritual growth and expansion in your own life. Amen? Amen. Amen. I know that was a lot, but I hope that it was a blessing. I hope the heart of what I'm endeavoring to communicate with you today, that it's piercing, that you see it, that you see yourself in it, that you're clear, and even if you're not, you're going to get clear. You're going to realize, this is where I'm sitting right now. This is the moment, and am I in the space that I'm in right now? Am I ready to step into this moment in a way that reminds me of my mastery, my own mastery, my divine mastery? That's for you. And so I want to encourage you to continue to make that call for grace, so that you can experience divine influence no matter the moment in your life. God bless you so much. Well, that's what I have to share with you today. I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Rochelle. I also want to let you know, I have one final announcement, Reverend Rochelle, when we're done, before our final closeout. But yes, we are on the heels of our anniversary. Oh my God. Let me just say, as a sidebar, I know the hour is late. Let me just say that talking about a call for grace, and I know those of you who've been with us for a while, there have been so many moments within this spiritual community, because of who we are and what we're called to be and deposit in this earth, that we've had to call for grace. We've had to call for divine influence. And what has happened in those moments is that you, each and every one of you, have grown in ways that blows my mind. Sometimes I think about where you were when you first came to real life. And I think about where you are now. I hear you talk now, and I remember how you talked when you came to real life, and I'm just like, oh my God, is that the same person? I mean, it feels like this person has been totally reinvented. That's how powerful divine influence is. And that's what we've experienced. And it's not just you, it's me. I see it in my own life. I see that divine influence. I see the person that has emerged because of the calls for grace to be experienced. And so with us now on the heels of our anniversary, what year is this for us? 15? I can't keep track. We started in the living room of a house, and there's so many people that have been impacted by this work. And so I'm just so grateful. And I know that the best is yet to come for us. And so I'm looking forward to celebrating our anniversary with you in September. And we'll see what that looks like for us, just given the conditions outside of us. But I'm so excited for what's ahead of us. And so I'll return at the end for just one closing announcement, and I'll turn it over to Reverend Rochelle. Thank you so much.
Yes, 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 yes. Pastor Miriam, I have been over here losing my mind